Haynes King does it again.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this special edition of the Portal Podcast. I am Brian Smith, live on a Saturday afternoon. Clemson upset by Georgia Tech 24-21. Haynes King, once again, a special performer. We're going to break that down today. We're also going to talk about Ty Simpson in Alabama, absolutely rolling along on offense. He was on fire again. This guy might be the most accurate quarterback in the country. John Mateer, another guy like Haynes King. He can spin it like Ty Simpson, and he is a physical, athletic specimen. He might be your Heisman favorite overall. And then we're going to talk more about the big matchups coming in. College football's best opportunities for big games are just getting started now. And we're going to talk a little bit about those. But first, let's talk about Haynes King. This isn't just something that happens every now and then. He's constantly in the midst of making plays that other guys just don't make. He's been beaten, battered, and bruised last season and this year. There were points last year he really couldn't throw a forward pass, and yet he was able to go out there and make plays. Today, he threw the ball pretty well, but he ran it well too. 25 carries, 101 yards against a physically imposing Clemson defense. Kept throwing his body into the pile. I want to break it down with the last drive that they had. This wasn't just any drive either. Everybody knew that Haynes was probably going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit, but it didn't matter. So tied at 21, there wasn't a whole lot of time left, 3 minutes, 26 seconds on the clock. First play, he gets no gain. That's okay. Next play, he passes over the middle to Malik Rutherford, 9 yards. And then he gets it up the middle on 3rd and 1, 9-yard gain again. A couple plays later, pass to the right. He hits Eric Rivers, gets it out to the 50. At that point, you're starting to think, okay, they got a chance at this field goal here. They get it all the way out to the 50. Keeper by Haynes right after that, 4 yards. A couple plays later, Haynes rushes it up the middle for 3 yards, and then a 2-yard run right before the fire drill. Hats off to Georgia Tech's special teams. I didn't know if they were going to get it off, but the snapper got the ball back to the holder, and he caught it with about 3 seconds left. It was textbook. It was off a computer screen on how you want to run it. Well done. Good coaching, good execution. Just a little bit inside the right of the far left upright. And I tell you what, that place went bananas. It had been almost a decade since Clemson had lost to Georgia Tech, and to do so in such dramatic fashion when Georgia Tech's good, but they're not as talented as Clemson. For it to happen like that, to be gritty and gutty, Coach Key and his staff, they deserve a ton of credit. Now, let's kind of go over a few of the stats from this game and just compare a little bit. Again, 25 carries for 101 yards. That's self-explanatory for Mr. King, but he was also 20 of 28 for 211 yards through the air, 71%. Now, he didn't light the world on fire with 211 yards, but he was consistent, didn't turn the ball over, and gave his team a chance to make plays. That's all you could really ask. They don't have a bevy of running backs, and they give Clemson credit. They held Haynes down a little bit, the running back, not Haynes King, the running back Haynes, and he only had 26 yards rushing. He had a score, but he only averaged 2.2 yards per carry. That's pretty good. On top of that, the defense played a pretty good game for Georgia Tech, considering they're not the deepest team in the world. 381 yards for Clemson, but they had a really big play. Receiver Bryant Wesco had a long of 76 on a deep over route, and he can fly. He's very talented. Clubbing played pretty good for most of the game, but he only ended up with 206. And again, he had a 76-yarder, so only had 130 yards passing on his other 25 attempts. They've got some problems there. Rushing the football, it wasn't like Clemson was dominant, but they got it rolling in the second part of the game and really late first half. Overall, 35 carries, 174 yards. That's pretty good. They averaged 5 yards a tote and lost. Georgia Tech had 147 yards, only 3.5 yards a carry. They actually went down. They averaged 4.5 yards a carry in the first quarter, but they couldn't couldn't really be knocked out, and they just kept hanging around. And of course, they do as well as anybody on those short yardage, and that's where Haynes King once again comes into play. As for third downs and all that kind of fun stuff, 7 out of 12 for Clemson, 8 out of 15 for Georgia Tech. So if you like offensive football, between the two teams combined, that is 15 out of 27 on third downs. That's pretty good. That's 55.5%. You will not turn that down if you're an offensive guy. And again, drama, high stakes, etc. Clemson was ranked 12th, and they get knocked off by Georgia Tech. Moving over to the Alabama and Wisconsin game, it could have been a lot worse. Ty Simpson got in there and threw it around 24-29, 362 yards and 4 touchdowns. There was a play earlier where Ryan Williams dropped a slant route. He should have had it for a touchdown. He dropped it, but he still ends up with 4 touchdowns. That young man's pretty athletic too. He had 6 carries for 25 yards. There is one thing that I want to mention in regards to Alabama. It's not good when your running back, Mr. Riley, Kevin Riley's a redshirt freshman, good player, 7 carries for 20 yards. That led the running backs for Bama. I don't understand how it can be that bad. I know Wisconsin's pretty physical up front, but they're not unbelievably dynamic or anything. Simpson scrambled a few times. It ended up with 6 carries for 25 yards and a long of 19. They got to fix their running game, and they've got to be able to do so very, very quickly because the SEC slate will not be friendly. We'll see how that goes, but Alabama's defense did a pretty good job. Third down conversions for Wisconsin was the only thing. Like, they battled pretty well, and their quarterback, by the way, Danny O'Neal, he's underrated. Kid out of Indianapolis. He's a good player. I think he does what he can, but their offensive line wasn't very good, and their running game just got bludgeoned early on. They had 14 carries for 15 yards, I believe it was, in the first half. They ended up with 34 carries for 92 overall. Didn't have a rushing touchdown. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown and a 41-yard score from O'Neal. But Wisconsin, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about their head coach getting fired. I'll talk about that in another week or so. He's probably trending in the wrong direction. But they were a little better up front defensively than I thought. O'Neal's a little better than what a lot of people thought. So give Wisconsin some credit. They were just overmatched at the line of scrimmage and then out wide. Vinny Anthony's really fast. He's the one with the kickoff return. But they don't have the talent that Bama does. And they kind of ran into a buzzsaw. And again, Ty Simpson, man, he tore him up today. And congrats to him. When we come back, I want to talk about John Mateer. Oklahoma rolls out in Philadelphia as they knock off Temple. And I think he's going to be your favorite for the Heisman because he's got some big games coming up. And he's just that gritty, gutty guy with a little more pizzazz than some other quarterbacks to be that guy. And we're also going to talk about some big matchups. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show was brought to you by Mazda. This episode is also about Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. Today, again, it's Haynes King. No doubt about it, he moved the ball when it needed to be, for as much as it needed to, in the right moment, the right way, to the right place. Haynes King for Georgia Tech was doing what he had to do to make the key plays. And that's why they are getting it done. And just like Mazda, they are an awesome opportunity to watch great football. So congrats to Tech. Congrats to Haynes King. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like that, there's more to every highlight. There's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day here on a Saturday afternoon. Just got done watching Clemson get knocked off in dramatic fashion as Georgia Tech wins 24-21 over the number 12 Clemson Tigers. We talked a little bit about Alabama, and now I want to discuss Oklahoma. Just a few stats, nothing overwhelming here that I want to discuss. But first off, let's be clear. Oklahoma is a team that they were going to buzzsaw Temple. Temple's not very good, and I'm being kind, but a couple of keynotes. Oklahoma's running game against Michigan, who has a very talented defense, was stymied beyond Mateer running a lot. They got away from that. He only had 7 carries today, 63 yards, 9 yards per carry, and a touchdown, very valuable, including a 51-yarder because he's a big play guy. But they got Torrey Blaylock going. 14 carries, 100 yards, 7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. That is important. if they can't get Jay Knott, Javonte Barnes, or one of these other guys going, maybe it's Xavier Robinson that gets rolling. I don't know. But Oklahoma is starting to pick up some steam. They could be somebody that is a sneaky team that could make it to the playoff now because the quarterback plays good. The opportunity for the run game to get better, get slowly. They need to get healthy up front. I know they had some guys beat up. But if they can get that running game going just a little bit more to help Mateer, they should be in a pretty good spot. As for Mateer overall, he was 20 of 34, 282 yards, 8.3 yards per passing attempt, 1 TD, 1 interception. And again, he had 9 yards per carry, 63 yards rushing, and a score on the ground. The receivers are doing pretty well. He's got 2 guys over 80 yards a day. Isaiah Sategna, the third, he ends up with 13.9 yards per catch, 7 receptions, 97 yards. And then Jaron Kanak, 4 catches, 86 yards, 21.5 yards per. No touchdowns for either one of them. The lone score went to Xavier Robinson on a 5-yard pass. So Oklahoma balanced. They got it done through the air. They got it done on the ground, and their defense delivered as well. Looking at the numbers for Temple, I mean, they had 78 yards passing. Good night. And they had, 26 yards rushing on 27 carries. Needless to say, they were bludgeoned. They only had a grand total of 105 yards off. I mean, that's insanely bad. So Oklahoma, they got it done. In terms of sacks, Oklahoma was credited with 4. And check this out. Not just 4 tackles or sacks, but 11 tackles for loss. They are a team to watch. Real quick, I said it before earlier in the show. I've said it on other pods. Mateer is a legit Heisman contender. Some of my friends and myself included, to a certain degree, we were kind of curious. How's he going to adjust going from Washington State, even though he came down with Arbuckle, his offensive coordinator, to OU? How would he adjust to big-time play? He played well against University of Michigan. And even though this was a lesser opponent, in some ways, this was a bigger game. Why? Because Mateer was going against somebody that, quite frankly, he could have kind of taken it easy. He didn't lose mental focus. That's very important. And you got to put up big stats against everybody if you're going to win the Heisman, by the way. But I think Oklahoma, as they steamroll through, they got Auburn coming up. They got Texas. They got several other big games. He's not only a Heisman candidate, but he could lead the Sooners to the promised land of the college football playoff. Now, as far as other big games, there are some obvious ones. Georgia, as I do this, is just getting started against Tennessee. You got A&M at Notre Dame tonight. You got Florida at LSU. Just a couple quick notes. I think that out of all those games, any of them can go any direction, but the Florida at LSU game has me the most interested for the following reason. Will Florida be bought in from the moment they walk into Tiger Stadium? And even if they don't do well the first 5 to 10 minutes, do they hang around? What is the buy-in throughout the game for UF? And if LSU does throw a haymaker and connects early on, is Florida able to get off the mat? After losing to USF, it's really hard to say what's going to happen to Billy Napier's Florida Gators. I'm not sure. It's an 8.5-point spread the last I saw on FanDuel. I think they'll cover that, but I don't think they'll win. And one of the reasons that I don't think they will is very simple. I don't believe that those players think they're all going to be there. I think some of them are already looking towards the portal. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but after the way they just looked lackluster in certain moments in that game against USF, that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy about Florida. But at the same time, still a very talented roster. I'm a huge Jaden Baugh fan. DJ Lagway is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country. They've got a nose guard that's going to play in the NFL. They've got other defensive linemen and players in the secondary, et cetera, going to play in the NFL. If they figure it out, they could even win the game at LSU tonight. We'll see. Notre Dame needs to win the Texas A&M game, or they risk really being on the brink of not being in the playoff, if they would be or not. But 0-2 is not a good place to start. That game at 7:30 on NBC. I think Notre Dame is going to throw the ball down the field a little more, take some shots. We'll see. But can they stop Le'Veon Moss and the Texas A&M Aggies running game, Marcel Reed and his incredibly dynamic running ability? Maybe, maybe not. More importantly for them, though, they've got to be able to come out with fire and play better than they did the first game they had against Miami, or Notre Dame is going to be in trouble. As for the Georgia-Tennessee game, I said it earlier this week on my predictions. I had Georgia by double digits because I don't think Tennessee's short passing game will work well against Georgia's extraordinarily talented secondary. I think they're going to take away the intermediate and short stuff and force them to try to throw over the top with help, because I don't think Georgia's going to have to put an extra safety in the box to really worry about the run game. And if that's true, if I'm right, it's going to be a long day for Tennessee. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your Saturday afternoon. I truly appreciate it. We'll be back Sunday with a full recap of everything that's going on. Everybody have a good one. See you soon.